The medical scanner in Captain Jenna Hayes' hand beeped frantically as she approached the massive shape in her supply shed. 3 hours had passed since the worst ion storm in Vega Prime's recorded history had finally moved on, leaving behind twisted metal and broken trees across the frontier settlement. As the only qualified medic for 50 miles, Jenna had been checking for storm damage when she discovered something that shouldn't exist. Her small medical station served the mining families scattered across this remote world, and she had seen plenty of strange things in her 5 years here. Radiation poisoning from faulty equipment, injuries from native wildlife, even the occasional smuggler with laser burns from planetary patrol encounters. But nothing had prepared her for what lay beneath the emergency tarp in her equipment storage. The shape was enormous, at least 20 feet long and 8 feet wide. When she had first spotted it during her post-storm inspection, Jenna assumed a piece of mining equipment had been blown into her shed. The ion storm had been powerful enough to move massive objects across great distances. But as she drew closer with her medical scanner, the readings made no sense at all, not organic tissue mixed with synthetic materials. A heartbeat, slow but steady. Brain activity that registered off the charts for intelligence. Most disturbing of all, the scanner detected technological implants throughout the creature's body, but the integration was wrong. Instead of enhancement, the technology seemed to be causing constant pain and system failures. "Hello," Jenna called softly, keeping her voice calm and professional. After 12 years as a military medic before retiring to frontier medicine, she had learned that injured beings responded better to gentle approaches. "I'm a doctor. Are you hurt?" The response nearly made her drop the scanner. A voice emerged from beneath the tarp, speaking perfect English with tones that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. The voice was deep and resonant, but filled with such profound sadness that it made Jenna's chest ache just listening to it. "Please," the voice said, "if you have any mercy in your heart, end my suffering. I cannot bear this mechanical prison any longer." Jenna set down her scanner and moved closer. Whatever was under that tarp was clearly intelligent and in tremendous pain. Every instinct she had developed as a healer told her to help, but caution warned her to be careful. Vega Prime was supposed to be free of dangerous wildlife, and the planetary surveys had never mentioned anything like this. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said, reaching for the edge of the tarp. "Let me see what's wrong. I might be able to help." "You cannot help me, human. No one can. I am corrupted beyond all hope of repair." The word human struck her as odd. Of course she was human, but the way the voice said it suggested knowledge of other species. According to everything Jenna had been taught, humanity had not yet encountered other intelligent life. They were alone in their small corner of the galaxy, slowly expanding from world to world. As technology advanced. She pulled back the tarp and immediately understood why her scanner readings had been so confused. Before her lay a dragon, magnificent and terrible at the same time. Its scales had once been brilliant gold and crimson, she realized, but now they were dull and scarred. Mechanical devices covered its body like parasites, connected by cables that disappeared into ports, drilled directly into its skull and spine. The dragon's wings had been partially replaced with mechanical constructs that sparked and twitched with their own malfunction. Its claws were no longer natural, but had been replaced with razor-sharp metal talons that looked designed for killing. Most heartbreaking of all, one of its eyes had been replaced with a glowing mechanical sensor that flickered erratically. "Dear God," Jenna whispered, her medical training warring with the impossibility of what she was seeing. "What happened to you?" A dragon lifted its great head and looked at her with its remaining natural eye. The intelligence there was undeniable, as was the pain that went far deeper than physical injury. "My name is Korenth," the dragon said. "Once I soared free among the stars with my people. We were explorers and guardians, protectors of younger species, learning to reach beyond their home worlds. Now I am a weapon, a tool created by those who call themselves the Dominion Empire. Jenna knelt beside the massive creature, her scanner confirming what her eyes could see. The mechanical components were failing systematically, causing cascading organ damage and neural disruption. Without immediate intervention, Korenth would die within hours. The Dominion Empire, she repeated, pulling emergency medical supplies. From her kit, I've never heard of them. Korenth's mechanical eye flickered more rapidly, and she realized it was the equivalent of surprise. You truly do not know. Your world exists under what the galactic community calls protective isolation. You have been shielded from the truth of what lies beyond your small system. As Jenna worked to stabilize the dragon's vital signs, Korenth continued speaking. Each word revealed a reality that challenged everything she thought she knew about humanity's place in the universe. The galaxy teems with intelligent life, human. Thousands of species, millions of worlds, all connected by faster-than-light travel and communication. But your people are not part of this community. You are considered too dangerous to contact directly. Dangerous. Jenna paused in her work. What makes us dangerous? Your refusal to surrender. Your inability to accept defeat, even in hopeless situations. Other species, when conquered, eventually accept their fate. Humans, according to the studies conducted in secret, never stop fighting. Even when enslaved, even when converted into servants, humans retain something that cannot be broken. Jenna applied a neural stabilizer to one of Korenth's damaged implants, and the dragon visibly relaxed as some of the pain subsided. The mechanical eye stopped its erratic flickering and focused on her with what seemed like gratitude. Converted, she said. You mean what happened to you? Yes, the Dominion specializes in taking free species and transforming them into perfect servants. They preserve the intelligence and abilities that made each species valuable, but remove the capacity for independent thought and rebellion. My people, the Pyrathi, were master flyers and energy manipulators, perfect scouts and warriors. For their fleet, Korenth tried to shift position, and Jenna helped support the dragon's weight. Even with the mechanical modifications, Korenth was incredibly heavy. But her military training had taught her how to move patients much larger than herself. What went wrong? She asked. How did you end up here, able to think freely? My conversion. Unit was damaged in our last battle. For the first time in decades, I could remember what I used to be. I could feel the horror of what had been done to me and my people. When the chance came, I tried to escape, but my ship was damaged and I crashed during your ion storm. Jenna connected a portable life support system to several of Korenth's failing implants. The dragon's breathing became easier, and some of the constant pain lines around its eye relaxed. There's something else, Korenth continued, its voice growing stronger. Something the Dominion discovered about humans during their secret studies. Your species appears to have an effect on converted beings. Being near humans seems to strengthen whatever part of us remembers freedom. As if to prove the point, more of Korenth's mechanical components stabilized under Jenna's care. The dragon's natural eye grew brighter, and its voice carried more emotion than it had since she found it. The Dominion and the Galactic Council have been debating humanity's fate for generations. Your protective status expires the moment your species achieves practical faster-than-light travel. When that happens, they plan to convert all of humanity, rather than risk you spreading your dangerous influence across the galaxy. Jenna sat back on her heels, trying to process everything Korenth had told her. According to her medical training, dragons didn't exist. According to her education, humanity was alone in the universe. According to her government, there were no alien civilizations to worry about, but the evidence lay before her, magnificent and tragic proof that everything she believed was wrong. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Based on my last intelligence. Briefing, your scientists are perhaps 50 years from achieving practical FTL drive. But that estimate could be wrong. If humanity develops the technology faster than expected." Korenth was interrupted by a sound that made both of them freeze. The distinctive whine of atmospheric engines, multiple ships moving fast and low over the settlement. Through the storage shed's single window, Jenna saw lights in the sky that didn't belong to any human aircraft she knew. "They have found me," Korenth whispered, and the fear in the dragon's voice was unmistakable. "The Dominion recovery force is here." Unlikely allies Jenna moved to the window and peered through the reinforced glass. 5 ships hung in the air above her medical station, each one sleek and predatory in design. They made no sound except for the high-pitched whine of their engines, and their hull design looked like nothing in any human database. "How long before they reach us?" she asked, returning to Korenth's side. "Minutes. They will scan the area first, confirming my location and assessing potential threats. When they determine I am here alone with a single human, they will move in for immediate extraction." Jenna looked at her medical supplies, then at the injured dragon, who had trusted her with impossible truths. Everything in her training told her to call the planetary authorities and report the situation. Let someone with more authority and firepower handle this crisis. But 12 years as a military medic had taught her something that no textbook ever covered. Sometimes, in the midst of chaos and danger, you found yourself standing between the innocent and those who would harm them. When that happened, rank and protocol mattered less than doing what was right. "I won't let them take you," she said quietly. Korenth's eye widened. "Human, you do not understand what you face. The recovery force consists of converted warriors from multiple species. They have advanced weapons and armor. You are one person with primitive medical equipment." Jenna stood and walked to a supply locker that she kept locked even from her patients. Inside were items that officially didn't exist, equipment that Captain Jenna Hayes had been carrying when her last military mission went catastrophically wrong. The mission that had led to her retirement and relocation to frontier medicine. "You're not the only one with secrets," she said, pulling out weapons and armor that looked far more advanced than anything a rural medic should possess. "And you're definitely not alone." The ships outside began to descend toward her medical station, and Jenna Hayes prepared to defend her patient against enemies she had never imagined. In the distance, thunder rolled across the sky, but she realized it wasn't thunder at all. It was the sound of engines, and they were getting closer. The first Dominion warrior through Jenna's medical station door moved like liquid death. It had once been something resembling a large cat, she realized, but the conversion process had transformed it into a nightmare fusion of organic grace and mechanical precision. Its natural muscles had been augmented with synthetic fibers that made it impossibly fast. Its claws had been replaced with energy blades that hummed with lethal power. Jenna didn't hesitate. Her modified plasma rifle, disguised as medical equipment until moments before, sent a concentrated beam through the creature's chest. The converted warrior stumbled, its mechanical components sparking, but it didn't fall. Instead, it turned toward her with eyes that glowed with cold, artificial light. "Human medical personnel," it said in a voice devoid of any emotion, "stand aside. We are retrieving damaged Dominion property. Interference will result in immediate termination." "This is my patient," Jenna replied, moving to put herself between the warrior and Korenth. "And you're trespassing in a medical facility." The converted creature tilted its head as if processing an unexpected response. Behind it, 2 more warriors entered the station. One had been humanoid originally, but now stood 8 feet tall with arms that ended in weapon arrays instead of hands. The other defied easy description, a floating mass of what looked like living metal that shifted and flowed as it moved. "Your species is under Galactic Council protection," the first warrior said. "We are not authorized to harm you without cause. Withdraw and you will be unharmed." Jenna glanced back at Korenth, who was struggling to rise despite the medical stabilizers. She had attached. The dragon's natural eye met hers, and she saw something there that made her decision easy. Not just pain or fear, but hope. For the first time in decades, Korenth had found someone willing to fight for its freedom. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. The floating metal creature spoke in harmonics that hurt to listen to. Human shows signs of irrational attachment to Dominion property. Possible psychological contamination. Recommend immediate evaluation. And processing. Processing, Jenna repeated. "You mean conversion." "Conversion is a gift," the humanoid warrior said, raising its weapon arms. "Freedom from the burden of independent thought. Purpose without the confusion of personal desire. We offer peace through service." Jenna triggered the emergency protocols she had installed at her medical station. Blast shields dropped over the windows, sealing them inside. The lighting shifted to emergency red, and hidden weapon systems activated throughout the building. Her little medical station had been designed to treat patients, but it had also been built by someone who never forgot her military training. "I've seen your idea of peace," she said, gesturing toward Korenth. "I'll pass." The battle that followed was unlike anything in Jenna's military experience. The converted warriors moved with coordination that no natural team could achieve, their actions perfectly synchronized through their shared control network. But they had been designed to fight other converted beings or regular military forces. They had not been prepared for someone who fought like a human. Jenna used every trick she had learned in 12 years of special operations. She moved unpredictably, used her environment as both weapon and shield, and most importantly, she fought not just to win, but to protect someone who couldn't protect themselves. The warriors' tactical programming struggled to counter strategies based on emotional attachment rather than logical objectives. The first warrior went down when Jenna collapsed a medical scanner on it, the heavy equipment crushing several key mechanical systems. The humanoid creature proved more challenging, its weapon arms tracking her movements with mechanical precision. But precision could be a weakness when facing someone who deliberately acted unpredictably. She feinted left, rolled right, and came up behind the creature with a surgical laser cranked to maximum power. The beam sliced through critical connections in the warrior's spine, dropping it instantly. The floating metal being was the most dangerous. It could reshape itself to avoid her attacks while launching projectiles that seemed to home in on her. Heat signature. But it also proved to have the most exploitable weakness. Its malleable nature meant it relied heavily on electromagnetic fields to maintain cohesion. Jenna activated every piece of electronic equipment in her medical station simultaneously. The resulting electromagnetic pulse disrupted the creature's form, causing it to collapse into an inert puddle of liquid metal. "Impossible," Korenth whispered from where the dragon had been watching the battle. "You defeated a full Dominion retrieval team. How is that possible?" Jenna slumped against a wall, breathing hard. Her makeshift armor had absorbed several hits, and she could feel burns and bruises forming where energy blasts had gotten through her defenses. "They're used to fighting slaves," she said. "Beings who've had their will broken and their creativity suppressed. They've never faced someone fighting for something they care about." She moved to check on Korenth's condition, but the dragon was staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You called me your patient," Korenth said. Quietly, "You are my patient. But I am also something else now. I am your friend." Hidden truths while Jenna worked to repair the damage to her medical station, Korenth shared more details about the galactic civilization humanity had never known existed. The Dragon's mechanical implants included data storage systems that contained detailed information about hundreds of species, thousands of worlds, and the complex political structures that governed them all. The Galactic Council consists of the oldest and most stable species, Korenth explained. They believe their role is to guide younger civilizations toward peaceful integration into the galactic community. Most species are contacted when they achieve faster-than-light travel and gradually introduced to galactic society. Jenna paused in her repairs to look at the dragon. But not humans. Humans are classified as a Category Red species, too dangerous for normal contact protocols. The Council has been studying your people for over 2 centuries, watching your development and debating what to do about you. What makes us so dangerous? Korenth's mechanical systems hummed as the dragon accessed stored data files. Your history. Primarily, most species go through periods of conflict during their development, but humans are unique in several ways. You fight wars of ideology rather than just resources. You refuse to surrender even when facing extinction. Most significantly, you extend protection to other species even when it offers no benefit to yourselves. Jenna thought about that last point. It was true that humans had a tendency to adopt causes that weren't directly their own. Environmental protection, animal rights, humanitarian aid to other groups. It had never occurred to her that this might be unusual among intelligent species. The Council fears that humans, if allowed to spread freely across the galaxy, would inspire other species to resist the current order. Your concept of universal rights and individual freedom is considered dangerously infectious. So they decided to have us converted instead. That was the Dominion's proposal. They specialize in what they call problem species, races that are too valuable to destroy, but too dangerous to leave free. They promised the Council that they could convert humanity while preserving your useful traits. Korenth shifted position, and Jenna noticed that the dragon's movements were becoming easier as her medical treatments continued to work. The mechanical implants were still there, but they seemed to be functioning better, causing less pain and system conflict. What went wrong with my conversion? Korenth asked. I can feel the control systems failing, but I do not understand why. Jenna pulled up the scan data on her medical display. It looks like the neural interface was damaged, but that's not the whole story. The organic components of your brain have been fighting the artificial controls all along. The damage just gave your natural mind a chance to break through. Is that unusual? According to the data I'm seeing, extremely unusual. The Dominion's files indicate that most species stop resisting the conversion process within days or weeks. But your brain shows evidence of continuous resistance for decades. Korenth was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. There have been others like me, converted Pyrathi, who seem to retain more personality than they should. The Dominion Command always attributed to incomplete conversion procedures. Or, Jenna said, maybe your species is more resistant to mental domination than they realized. Maybe that's true of other species too, and the Dominion just never encountered the right conditions to trigger a breakdown in their control systems. The dragon's eye widened as the implications sank in. You are suggesting that the conversion process is not as permanent as the Dominion believes. I'm suggesting that maybe you can't really enslave a mind that's determined to be free. You can suppress it, distract it, even torture it, but somewhere deep down, the desire for freedom remains. The gathering storm their conversation was interrupted by signals from Korenth's damaged communication systems. The dragon's mechanical implants were still partially connected to Dominion networks, providing fragments of tactical information. There are more ships coming, Korenth said urgently. Many more. The loss of the retrieval team has triggered a full-scale response. Jenna checked her own communication equipment and found confirming data from planetary monitoring stations. Dozens of ships were entering Vega Prime's atmosphere, Far too many for her to handle alone. What kind of response are we talking about? Complete sterilization protocol. They will destroy this settlement and everyone in it to prevent contamination of other species with human influence. And they will take me back for extensive reconditioning. Jenna stood and walked to her communication array. The equipment looked like standard civilian hardware, but like everything else in her medical station, it had hidden capabilities. She began transmitting on frequencies that officially didn't exist, using codes that had been classified beyond top secret. "What are you doing?" Korenth asked, calling for backup. The response came faster than she had expected. Text messages began appearing on her screen from locations across the sector. Each message was brief, but they painted a picture of something the dragon found hard to believe. Confirmed. En route, Ghost. About time something interesting happened. Phantom. Always wondered when the aliens would show up. Reaper. 15 minutes out. Try not to get killed before we arrive. Wraith. Korenth read the messages with growing amazement. You have military assets positioned throughout this sector. Not military, Jenna corrected. We're all officially dead, remember. But we stay in touch, and we look out for each other. Through the station's external sensors, they could see the Dominion fleet taking positions around the settlement. Massive ships hung in the sky like predatory birds, their weapon systems charging for what would clearly be overwhelming firepower. They will not negotiate, Korenth said. The Dominion does not bargain with primitives. Good thing we're not planning to negotiate. Jenna activated the final systems she had built into her medical station. What had appeared to be a simple frontier clinic began to transform. Hidden armor plating extended from the walls. Weapon systems emerged from concealed compartments. Most importantly, a powerful transmitter activated, broadcasting a signal across multiple galactic frequencies. What is that transmission? Korenth asked. A message, Jenna said, telling the galaxy that humans know the truth now. That we know what's been planned for us, and we refuse to accept it. The dragon stared at her with something approaching awe. You are declaring war on the entire galactic order. I'm declaring that we have the right to exist as free beings. If that means war, then that's what it means. Outside, the Dominion ships began to descend, their weapons charging for what they expected to be a simple extermination mission. They had faced rebellious species before and crushed them all with overwhelming force, but they had never faced humans who knew they were fighting for their survival and the survival of every free mind in the galaxy. They had never encountered beings who would rather die fighting than live in chains. As the first enemy shots lit up the sky, Jenna Hayes smiled grimly. She had spent 5 years as a quiet frontier medic, healing the sick and injured. But Captain Jenna Hayes had never really died, and now she was exactly where she belonged, between the innocent and those who would harm them. With friends coming to help, and a dragon by her side who remembered what freedom meant, the real battle was about to begin. The sky above, Vega Prime erupted in brilliant flashes of light as the first wave of Dominion ships opened fire on Jenna's medical station. Energy beams that could melt through starship armor struck the building's hidden defenses, sending cascades of sparks and molten metal flying in all directions. But the structure held, its concealed armor plating absorbing impacts that should have reduced it to ash inside the station. Jenna coordinated her defensive systems while Korenth provided tactical information through the dragon's damaged but still functional sensor arrays. The building shook with each hit, dust raining down from the ceiling, but her preparations were holding against the initial assault. 18 ships in the first attack wave, Korenth reported, mechanical implants flickering as data flowed through. Damaged circuits. They are using standard bombardment patterns designed to overwhelm planetary defenses quickly. How long can we hold out? Jenna asked, routing power from non-essential systems to strengthen the shields. Against this level of firepower, perhaps 10 minutes before the armor fails completely. Through the reinforced windows, Jenna could see the settlement's other buildings being systematically destroyed. The mining families she had treated for years were hopefully in the underground shelters, but their homes and businesses were being reduced to rubble by weapons that turned matter into plasma. That was when the cavalry arrived. Lieutenant Ben Foster had been officially declared dead during the same classified mission that had ended Jenna's military career. In reality, he had spent the last 5 years running a small freight company that moved supplies between frontier worlds. His ship looked like a standard cargo hauler, but appearances could be deceiving. The first Dominion vessel to explode came as a complete surprise to the alien fleet. One moment it was firing on the medical station, the next it was an expanding ball of superheated gas. The other ships immediately began evasive maneuvers, trying to locate the source of the attack. They found it when Foster's ship dropped its camouflage and revealed weapon systems that belonged on a military destroyer, not a freight hauler. Energy. Cannons that had been disguised as cargo containers opened fire, sending streams of coherent plasma through the Dominion formation. Ghost leader to all units. Foster's voice crackled through Jenna's communication system. Target-rich environment. Weapons free. Let's show these aliens how humans fight. More ships decloaked around the Dominion fleet as the rest of Jenna's old unit arrived. Each vessel looked like civilian craft, but all carried hidden armaments and crews who had supposedly died years ago. Phantom, Reaper, Wraith, and 6 others, each ship crewed by soldiers who had been erased from official records, but had never stopped serving. The battle that followed defied everything the Galactic Dominion knew about human capabilities. According to their intelligence, this was a primitive species with crude technology and no knowledge of galactic civilization. But the humans fighting them used tactics and weapons that seemed impossible for such a supposedly backward race. How are they doing this? Demanded the Dominion fleet commander, a converted being whose original species had been master strategists before their enslavement. Human technology should be centuries behind our capabilities. The answer came from Korenth, who had been monitoring Dominion communications through the dragon's implants. They do not fight like other species. They fight like humans. The dragon's song as the space battle raged overhead. Jenna worked frantically to keep her medical station's defenses operational. The Dominion ground forces had landed during the aerial engagement, and she could see converted warriors moving toward her position through the ruins of the settlement. 43 enemy soldiers approaching from multiple directions, she reported. To Korenth. Mixed species, heavy weapons, coordinated assault pattern. The dragon struggled to stand despite the medical equipment still attached to its damaged systems. I will not let them take me back to slavery. If I must die, I will die. Free. Nobody's dying today if I can help it, Jenna said, activating the station's final defensive measures. Hidden weapon turrets emerged from the building's exterior walls, and a shield generator created an energy barrier around the entire structure. But even as she prepared for the ground assault, Jenna noticed something strange happening to Korenth. The dragon's mechanical implants were behaving differently, their usual harsh electromagnetic signatures softening into something more harmonious. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Something I have not done in decades," Korenth replied. "I am singing." The sound that emerged from the dragon was unlike anything Jenna had ever heard. It was not audible in the conventional sense, but rather a resonance that seemed to vibrate through her bones and into her mind. The frequency was hauntingly beautiful, carrying emotions and memories that spoke of freedom and flight among the stars. The effect on the approaching converted warriors was immediate and dramatic. Several stumbled and fell as their control systems began to malfunction. Others stopped in their tracks, mechanical implants sparking as organic minds, fought against artificial restraints for the first time in years or decades. The Song of Freedom, Korenth explained, the resonance growing stronger. Every converted being carries deep memories of what they used to be. The right frequency can awaken those memories, can remind them of what they lost. One by one, the converted warriors began to change. A creature that had once been feline removed its mechanical control collar with claws that remembered gentleness. A being that resembled a giant insect spread wings that had been clipped for combat and tried to remember how to fly. But the most dramatic transformation happened to another Pyrathi, a dragon like Korenth, who had been leading the ground assault. This creature had been more thoroughly converted, its natural gold and silver scales replaced entirely with mechanical plating. But as Korenth's song reached it, something began to crack in its artificial composure. "I remember," the converted dragon said, its voice filled with wonder and pain. "I remember my name. I am Viridian. I was a teacher. I taught younglings how to read the star currents." Korenth's song grew stronger, and Viridian began tearing at the mechanical restraints that covered its body. Other converted beings joined in, helping each other remove the devices that had enslaved their minds for so long. The price of freedom, the liberation of the ground forces, created chaos in the Dominion chain of command. Ships that had been winning the aerial battle suddenly found their crews questioning orders as converted beings throughout the fleet began to remember who they used to be. "This is impossible," the Dominion commander transmitted on all frequencies. "Conversion is permanent. These systems have been tested on thousands of species." "But never on humans," Jenna replied, having tapped into their communication network. "And never in the presence of someone willing to fight for freedom instead of just their own survival." The space battle turned as converted crews aboard Dominion. Ships began to rebel. Some vessels turned their weapons on their own fleet. Others simply shut down their engines and drifted powerless as their crews tried to remember what they had been before slavery. Foster's voice came through Jenna's communicator. "Whatever you're doing down there, keep it up. Half the enemy fleet just stopped shooting at us." But victory came with a terrible cost. The effort of maintaining the Song of Freedom was destroying Korenth's already damaged systems. The dragons. Mechanical implants were overloading, sending cascades of sparks through circuits that had never been designed to carry the frequencies of liberation. "I cannot maintain this much longer," Korenth gasped, the song faltering. Jenna moved to the dragon's side, checking the medical readouts on her scanner. What she saw made her heart sink. The neural interfaces were burning out, taking critical brain tissue with them. Korenth was dying, consumed by the effort to free others from the slavery the dragon had endured for decades. "Stop," she said. "You'll kill yourself. Then I will die, having given others what I could never give myself," Korenth replied. Complete freedom from the machines. But before the dragon could resume the deadly song, Viridian stepped forward. The newly freed Pyrathi was still removing mechanical components from its body, but its natural voice was strong and clear. "Let me help," Viridian said. "I remember the old songs now. We can share the burden." Other freed beings joined in, each adding their voice to the resonance of liberation. The song spread from mind to mind, from ship to ship, awakening converted beings throughout the Dominion fleet. What had started as one dragon's desperate act of defiance became a chorus of freedom that echoed across the star system. A new beginning when the battle finally ended. The sky above Vega Prime was filled with ships whose crews were trying to remember who they used to be. The Dominion fleet had been neutralized not through destruction, but through liberation. Hundreds of converted beings from dozens of species were taking their first free breaths in generations. Jenna stood outside her damaged medical station, watching as former slaves helped each other remove the last of their mechanical restraints. Korenth lay nearby, weak but alive, a dragon's natural system slowly healing now that the most harmful implants had been removed. "What happens now?" she asked Viridian, who had emerged as a natural leader among the freed beings. "Now we spread the word," the dragon replied. "There are thousands of species throughout the galaxy living in slavery, believing that conversion is permanent and irreversible. We will show them that freedom is always possible for those willing to fight for it." Foster approached from his ship, grinning despite the burns and battle damage he had sustained. "Jenna, I think you started something bigger than you realized." "I just treated a patient," she said. "Everything else was just protecting someone who couldn't protect themselves." "That's what makes you human," Korenth said weakly. "And that's what makes humans dangerous to those who profit from slavery." In the days that followed, word of what had happened on Vega Prime spread throughout the galaxy. The Dominion tried to suppress the information, but the truth had a way of reaching those who needed to hear it. On world after world, converted, beings began to remember what they had lost and to fight for what they could regain. The Galactic Council's careful order began to crumble as species after species demanded the right to determine their own fate. The humans, no longer protected by their isolation, found themselves at the center of a galactic revolution they had never asked for, but could not abandon. Jenna returned to her work as a medic, but her patients now included beings from across the galaxy who came seeking not just physical healing, but help in recovering from the trauma of conversion. Her small medical station became a symbol of hope for those who had forgotten what hope meant. And in the evenings, when her work was done, she would sit with Korenth and listen to the dragon's stories of what the galaxy had been like before the Dominion's rise to power. They were stories of exploration and wonder, of species working together to build something greater than any could achieve alone. It was a future worth fighting for, Jenna realized. A future where freedom was not a privilege granted by the powerful, but a right that belonged to every thinking being in the universe. The revolution had begun with a simple act of kindness, a medic treating an injured patient. But it would end with the liberation of a galaxy, one mind at a time, one song of freedom at a time. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, other humans were listening to the call, preparing to join a fight they had never known was coming, but had been preparing for their entire species' history. The age of conversion was ending. The age of human influence was about to begin.